Guys, for any of you Luna mains out there, I have some pretty fun news. So welcome guys, we have been playing the creator early access test all day, and we've been obviously mainly using Luna. Now there has been some pretty big changes to Luna's kit in general, and some pretty interesting changes, some nerfs, some buffs. So I think there's a lot to talk about and a lot to look through and a lot to have a look at. So this is Luna. This is my Luna right now. I have not maxed out the gear lines, nor have I reforged the unique treasures, because that's not what I'm here for really. But I've been able to push her up to 160k attack, which is very fun. So what are the main changes? Well, there's been a lot of changes in her skills, primarily. As far as I saw, I will double check. If I'm not mistaken, her unique weapon is the same: 100% crit damage, 50% normal attack damage, and oh, her range has been increased. Oh, okay. Her range has been doubled. So her range used to be 15%. Her range is now 30. So that's crazy. Okay. Hold on, because I remember her range used to be, that's her S4. Oh my god. Yeah, she used to be like around here, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so you see she's at the end of the triangle. Okay. I mean, I had already looked at this, but I did not notice the unique weapon change. Okay, that's crazy. So she's been massively buffed here. That range increase, as you guys know, will absolutely buff all of her other skills, which is great. But then something like her S2 is exactly the same: 50% damage increase with 10% cooldown reduction on a crit hit. The absolute same, nothing different. Her UT1, for any PvP people out there, is, I believe, the exact same: 50% damage and 200% mana upon a crit. Her S3 is crit chance reduction becomes irremovable, which is the same, and increases the duration by 5 seconds. Absolutely the same. And her S4 reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds and cleanses itself when affected by CC once every 20 seconds. That's pretty good because her S4 has been changed. I will show you that now, because her S4 is actually very good. Let's go into the skills, guys. So if we look at her skills, we'll start with obviously her skill 1. Her skill 1 currently unleashes an attack that bounces 4 times, deals magic damage to each hit, and increases damage by more bounces. That is exactly the same as it used to be, except it used to bounce 3 times. Now it bounces 4, which is even better for just general AoE content. This, an extra hit is an extra hit. Absolutely brilliant. And as you can see, it is now a 1 mana cost. This used to be a 2 mana cost. Not crazy, but it's good for PvP. Bursting in PvP, because now she'll be able to insta-proc that. But there's a slight caveat to that. I'll show you guys what I mean afterwards. So that's the main thing. But then we look at her perks. Her light perk now ignores block, when it used to give her CC immunity. That kind of sucks. Slight nerf, obviously, because that means she won't be able to ignore a Leo, for example. But we'll have to see how that interacts with something like a S4, because you could potentially be tempted to run this in PvP just to get rid of any like early game Leos, instead of running a bit more extra damage. That we'll have to wait and see. Ignore block, nothing special. Her dog, on the other hand, stuns enemies for 1.2 seconds, which is what it used to do, but it used to stun for 2 seconds. So it's been reduced by a fair amount, but that's okay. Nothing crazy. Now we'll move on to her main PvE skill. Look out above. It is still a 2 cost for a 12-second cooldown. Brilliant. It is a 2 hit, which is more than before, and it now stuns for 1.8 seconds, and obviously increases up to 200% based on how far away the enemy is. This used to be, I think, a single hit, if I'm not mistaken, and it used to stun for 3 seconds, so a decent hit on that. And I don't have access to how much the percentage used to be, but it used to be a 1 hitter, and now it's a 2 hitter. Why is that important? Because of her new light perk. The new light perk increases the mana cost by 2. So now it's a 4 cost like it used to be, but it increases the number of hits by 2. This means it is now a 4 hit combo. Her S2 now does 4 hits. Why? Who knows? I'm all for it. That's great for many reasons. Now, her S2 was already very strong with 3 hits. That extra hit means she gets an extra 10% cooldown reduction per crit, which means at a minimum, that's now obviously an extra 10%. It's now gone up to 40% crit damage, 40% cooldown reduction on a crit. But if you do it in a PvP setting or an AoE setting like Guild Conquest 3 or World Boss 3, It is now very, 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 very much easier to hit multiple enemies and potentially even get a full reset instantly. Because if you're hitting for 2 enemies, you've got 4 hits. If you're hitting 2 enemies, that's 8 hits. That's 80% cooldown reduction. You only need to be hitting 2 enemies, basically. As long as there's more than 2 enemies, you are instantly resetting this. Potentially in a 3 enemy and above context, you could be getting infinite S2s, like GC3, as long as you don't get unlucky with targeting. In GC3, you could literally only be spamming S2 during your phase, as long as you have enough mana. That is crazy fun. I am all for that. That is so fun. So fun, because Luna was already fun, but her targeting made it very annoying. But that's been a massive buff, right? Because before, her perks were only increased it to 3 attacks, not 4, which is awesome. Awesome. Super happy with that. But I haven't even talked about her dark perk. Her dark perk increases it by 1k, but targets the furthest enemy. Now, this sounds busted stupid for PvP. Basically, it turns it into a 3 cost, 2 hits, and it will always target, their CC, their healer in PvP, essentially. So you could essentially make her into a 3 cost burst that will completely wreck your enemy's healer, because I don't think a healer could really survive 2 hits of this. And it stuns them, and it increases damage by up to 200%. 2 healers are usually the furthest people away. If you were to pair that up with something like a Maria who could push people away, you might not even need to use this perk. You could probably just use this perk and insta-pop their healer, which sounds very fun for PvP. We'll definitely be messing around with that and seeing if it's worthwhile over just using S1 burst with potentially the stun, or using her old S3. But speaking of her S3, let's look at her S3, because her S3 is probably her biggest nerf, surprisingly. Her S3 has gone up from a 1 cost to a 3. Still 15 seconds cooldown, but it is now a 3 cost, which sucks, because obviously this was great as an insta counter burst, basically. You could counter other people's burst with your burst with Luna's S3, because Luna's S3 reduces critical chance by 100%. Super fun. It still is, it hits 6 times. Don't know how many times it hit before, but it knocks them back for 1.8 seconds. Used to be, it didn't knock them back before. Interesting. So, it now knocks them back, reduces the chance, and increases the damage by distance. That knockback used to be in a perk. A dark perk used to be for 1 extra cost. It knocked back for a good amount of knockback. That has now been included in the skill, which is probably why they decided to increase the cost to 3. That's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. If we look at her light perk, it is pretty much the same. Reduces the accuracy of enemies hit by 200 for 10 seconds, which is it's not exactly the same. It's actually a little bit higher. It used to be 150 for 7 seconds. It is now 200. So an extra 50% accuracy reduction is pretty fun. But her dark perk is, if there's only 1 enemy, damage dealt by 100. Might, emphasis on might, be an okay perk for bossing, just to get a little bit of extra damage from her S3, but I don't think that will be worth using over anything else compared to like running another T2 perk or something of the sort. Now, that's all fine and dandy. Now, if you guys remember her S4, before we look into it, I'll obviously be showing the stuff on screen as well. Her S4 used to be a little passive, which wasn't anything special. When you were inflicted by CC, it used to dispel negative effects from himself, and it used to attack the enemy furthest away, dealing magic damage and knocking them away for 2 seconds. Her light perk used to remove positive effects from the target, and her dark perk used to increase the number of targets to 2. Why do I say all this? Because it is completely different and a million times better. Now, the new one will instantly attack the furthest enemy, dealing a massive chunk of damage. It will knock them back for 1.2 seconds. Again, instantly, and it will increase the magic damage they take by 20% for 6 seconds. And of course, increases damage by further away the enemy is. This girl is nutty. This girl is absurd. So she's instantly buffing, and it's every 12 seconds, right? Every 12 seconds, she will automatically target the backline and just knock about, essentially. Now, you can add on perks, right? Her light perk removes positive effects, which used to be part of the skill. Used to be her old light perks. That's the same. And then her gotcha her dark increases to 2. Same thing. But even then, imagine this in a PvP build. It will instantly increase the damage taken on the furthest two enemies at the start of battle. You could run potentially something like maybe this. You wouldn't be running this, you'd probably be running this, and you'd probably be running crits for PvP. You wouldn't be running Monster Hunter, you'd probably be running HP. You could maybe do something like this for PvP. And if you got an extra perk, you could add on potentially the penetration or reducing the enemy's resistance, which is pretty good. Reducing the enemy's recovery, which is pretty good for PvP against war teams. Now, let's look at how that looks in combat. Before we get into that, actually, her dark perk, same thing, 30% damage taken and damage increased to non-heroes. That is exactly the same as it used to be, which is great. The light perk, I think is what it used to be, 15% attack, 20% crit damage, is exactly the same. So let's look at her skills. Now, as soon as we load in, you're going to see a massive hit from super far away, remember, because it's going to be instantly. She's shooting from all the way here. That did 3 million damage without critting. And you'll see that every 12 seconds, she will once again do it again. That big hit was that hit. There it is. Now, that's great. And then obviously, as soon as you do that, the enemy has the damage increase, which as soon as it hits, let me do it again. There we go. Boom. They have the debuff. You could instantly S2. And this should, in theory, pretty much wipe out the enemy's healer, in my opinion. So that could be very fun. Now, the downside to that is this. In the old meta, you used to instantly want to S1 as soon as the battle started. Interesting. Okay, hold on. Huh. Okay, sorry guys. I'm surprised by that. Wait, does other skills cancel it too? Yes. Interesting. So, okay, that's both good and bad to know. Because that basically means her auto is ruined, but he will... Okay, that's... Okay. That's interesting. I don't know how to feel about that. In case you guys didn't realize what just happened, when she's going to do her her S4 attack, you can actually cancel it using one of your skills. So if we look at it here, she will do it shortly. She's starting it. I can now use my S1 and I'll cancel her S4, which means she misses it. And now she's losing 6%. A lot of increased damage, essentially, which would suck also for PvE. That's a nice juicy extra damage, which means if you're spamming your S3, even in PvE, you kind of want to be careful about how you are timing that with her S4. Interesting. I don't know if that's intentional. I will let the devs know about that one, because that might not be intentional. But I'm getting distracted. Essentially, her S4 is very, very fun. It will let you pretty much insta-pop someone in the back line. And as you saw, she stands here, but she popped it at the start a good chunk back. She pops it as soon as she starts. She loads in. If it was in a team content, she'll probably load in even further behind, which means that S4 is going to hurt even more because she pops it from all the way back here. It's the same thing that happened when you could insta-pop your S1. She will do it from the furthest away possible to gain the most amount of damage possible. That is very interesting. So as you guys can see, overall, Luna has been buffed, in my opinion, and by a ton. I don't know exactly if her numbers have been nerfed to compensate for the overall damage increase. I do not know if this is less damage. I can't tell you. I don't know if that's more than before. I really don't. I would have to look very much in depth into old calculators, see if anyone has that info. But we didn't have this kind of information before, and it was all calculated by the fans. So I can't tell you. But overall, her kit looks amazing. I am very excited to play with her in PvE when it comes to world bossing, especially in areas like World Boss 3, DC3, and obviously just World Boss 1 for fun. She looks amazing. I'm gonna be totally real, she looks amazing. Of course, she has her critical, she has a ton of crit damage increase, which means you can pretty much not have to worry about her crit damage at all in her gear as she used to. You know, another 30% here. She also has a, this stacks up to, what is it, another 100. That's 200% crit damage, 230% crit damage. And once we get soul weapons, that's another 100. My girl is looking crazy. Like, unironically, like, I love her, and I'm not saying this just because I'm a massive Luna main. She looks good. I'm very happy. In terms of build, we don't have access to gear. I think perks would probably look something like this. For longer content, you would probably add in concentration, but the penetration eagle eye is also very good for something like DC3 or World Boss 3 versus potentially the attack increase, or just a crit chance if you no longer need it, because 30% crit damage is not a lot. And I think the pen would help out a lot more in World Boss 3 and GC3. I feel like I remember you adding, if you had another perk, yeah, I don't know what else you would really want to add. Potentially just adding in the S3 Dark, or potentially the I don't know. There's some options in there. I think for PvP you could run something like this for an S2 kind of burst, or swap out this S2 skill for potentially the S1 stun if you want to deal big damage, or potentially the S3 if you're trying to run on the S3, or even just the S2 increased hits, the 2 mana increase for slower play, if you think you can hit the 4 mana before this runs out. I don't think there's options there. I think once we get guild content, I think we'll be able to access Manticore gear, which I think Manticore gear will definitely be the best choice for PvE. And then PvP, you'd probably want to be running Black Dragon set for the mana attack, just to increase your mana gain. Although Red Dragon might be okay for the extra crit, but I don't think so, because I think we have so many extra so many access to crit buffs anyway. I think you should be okay. But yeah, I think that's probably what Luna is looking like overall. I don't want to go into too in depth into what her team would look like, because I haven't looked too much into what is the best combinations, but I do think Jane and Frey are pretty standard picks, and the 4th slot would probably be your Priscilla maybe, once we get her, or potentially another support or another tank in your 4-man team, or Yannette in the 4-man team. Yannette is as good as she should be. We shall see. But that is Luna, guys. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you guys want to see any more of this kind of Luna content, or just general King's Raid content, please remember to subscribe, hit the bell notification to be alerted of other uploads, and I'll see you guys in the next one.